Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be installing the JXR Performance Fender Reflector overlays. These overlays go on the overlays that are on like the wheel arches, essentially in the rear fenders. And these are a cheap and easy modification for the VB WRX. I love modifications like this because they cost very, very little money and they make a big impact on the car itself. This is super quick and easy. We're going to do a wet installation. You can dry install these. It's just a little bit trickier when you dry install them, so you might need to get 2 sets of them if you're doing a dry installation if you've never done one before. But essentially, we're just going to clean off the area. Again, if you dry install it, you just stick them on. If you do a wet installation, we're going to spray them down with a soapy water mix. Spray these down with a soapy water mix, press them, and then we're going to squeegee them out, and then that will be done. And let's get them installed because this is, again, cheap, easy, quick to do, makes a big impact on the car. Let's get into it. So we've started by washing the car and then using some isopropanol alcohol to clean the surface up. I did use a towel here that left some fiber strands on the car, so I'm just going to wipe those off with a microfiber to make sure I have a clean working space. And there's no fingerprints and all the good stuff. Now, with this emblem, it's very easy to install. The only thing here is there is a part number that is, I would say, more proud of the surface of than the bumper reflectors. So we are going to use a heat gun for this one. Again, you don't have to. I'm just going to use one so I can contour around this part number, which stinks that it's there, just a little bit better. But this is a pretty easy install. So if you wanted to do a dry install, this is where you would just place the tint on the reflector. If it's your first time doing a dry install, I highly recommend buying 2 sets of tint, just because if it's your first time, you might mess up. It's a little less forgiving than doing a wet install. The wet install, it's easier to actually do the install, but the process is a little more complicated. So in this video, I'm going to show you a wet install in case that's what you guys want to try for this first time. So for the wet install, I just have some soapy water. I'm going to spray this down, and then I'm going to pull off my tint, and then I'm going to spray the back of the tint. Get that all wet. I'm going to move my finger, get the spot where my finger was, spray this again. We just want a really wet surface here. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply the tint. I'm making sure that it's actually on just the surface that I'm tinting. I don't want to catch the rest of the car because I didn't isopropanol that as much. We're installed essentially. And then we're just going to tack it down. I'm going to use a felt tip applicator. If you don't have one of these, I would just use your finger. I wouldn't use a credit card. And we're just looking to start pushing some of the water out. And this is what will actually bond it down. Now, if you're doing a wet installation, you need to be careful doing this so you don't move it as you're bonding it down. But once you start getting it bonded down, the adhesion starts, and you can go a little bit faster. Now, what you'll notice here is that until you leave the car out in the sun for a while, or you heat it, you're going to have some lift where your numbering is. So that's where you either go ahead and use a heat gun, or you let it in the sun and you have to come through and just push down a little bit on that as you go. So we're installed there, and these are pre-shrunk, but using a heat gun will shrink them a little bit. So just know that, don't over shrink them. Now I'm just going to heat the surround of the car first because I don't want to create a big temperature differential. If you create a big temperature differential, it will lift the corners a little bit more than it would otherwise do. So I'm just heating up gently the surround of the area, and I'm going to slowly bleed this heat over the emblem, over the reflector before I fully heat the reflector and bond it down. Now already I can see the water being heated out from underneath the product, so I'm going to apply some heat here, and then I'm just going to tack it a little bit as I go here. Just want to continually promote that bond, and then I'm probably going to use my finger for the rest of this. So I'm going to go again, hit it with some heat. We're doing little steps here because we don't want to over shrink it. We're just pushing out the air when it pops up. We're promoting that bond, and what we're slowly doing is we're going to start conforming around the part number here. That's what's critical. So that part number is also going to hold a lot of water underneath it. So our goal here is to push that water out from underneath it. And that's what we're doing across the entire product as we're adhering it. And some of it, it doesn't have to be perfect. Some of it will come out over time as you expose it to sunlight. But again, we're just trying to bond the material around that part number and force out any water underneath that part number. You'll notice as you continue to do it, you're going to force out more and more water from that part number. So I'm going to heat the bottom a little bit here, evaporate some of that water, and then get back in there. And I'm already starting to overheat my material a little bit here. You can see that around that corner. So I don't want to overheat it too much, so I just got to be careful here. And there we go, we're installed. So this is what it looks like stock, the reflector on the wheel arch. And then if we walk around the car, a little bit wet because it's a nice and chilly morning in New England, but this is what it looks like tinted. So it makes a big difference, gets rid of that red, becomes less of a focal point, kind of blends into that space. And there we have it, guys. It looks pretty good. I've got a link in the description for you guys so you guys can save a little bit of money on this guy. But super quick, easy to do, cheap, and it makes the car look so much better.